The hot seat.
How are you?
The hot seat. Doing good, man.
This skinny fella, right? How's everybody? Good. Come on, how's everybody? Good.
That's it.
One more. How's everybody? Good. All right, here we go. Wake up that girl in the back of the table.
Yeah, these guys woke up at 2 a.m. and drove from Mississippi.
My
I'm like,
goodness.
golly.
Well worth it.
I hope it was worth it. Yeah. No, you ever think we would be up here together?
I got to tell you, no, I didn't. I remember this guy, I don't even remember how many years ago it was.
About 4.
Working a full-time grind, young dad. I mean, really wanted to do something other than work for the man, I guess is the old term. Talking to me a lot about what should I do, how should I do this, and honestly I knew you were going to do something because you just had that grit about you and that drive. But yeah, should I quit my job? Should I do this? And so the fact that we're here, good job.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I see you speaking a lot. I see you building all these different things, all these different companies doing different things. So why in the world would you even want to be here to speak to these guys? You could do a million different things on Saturday.
Oh no, if I was at home, I would be having coffee with my dogs. So, no, I number one, I'll support you and John, anything you guys do. I think your ministry and your mission, I think, is amazing. I've got a lot of experience, good, bad, and indifferent, and I don't mind sharing it. So anytime I'm asked to speak to investors or anyone in real estate, I'm more than happy to do so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into everything, obviously I didn't do you any justice on that intro. So why don't you take a couple minutes and tell everybody kind of like how you got started and get them to today. I know there's a lot in between that.
Well, my background really quick. I'm an old entrepreneur. Started my first business when I was in my teens. I was basically unemployable, so I had to do my own thing. So a variety of businesses over about 35, 40 years. I had retired and was getting on my wife's nerves. And she's like, you need a new business, a hobby, or a girlfriend, and I will not let you have the third one. So my daughter Chelsea was in real estate at the time. She just had a knack for it. She flipped her first house in high school. Went to college, flipped houses the whole time she was in Alabama, came back here, got a real estate license, started a building company, a remodeling. She was just amazing. She actually did an HGTV pilot. And so she's the one that said, hey, Dad, why don't you get your real estate license and let's start a business. And what she meant was, hey, Dad, get your real estate license and start us a business. And so we started a company here about 5 years ago called Revolve Realty. We were just a small shop. We were a flat fee company. Basically, as an entrepreneur, you want to know what your competitors are doing. And I really didn't know much about real estate other than I watched Chelsea do a lot of stuff. But I knew to be successful in this business from a retail standpoint, we had to do something a little different because you couldn't swing a stick without hitting a realtor in this town. And so we found the model. We were doing flat fee. Basically, it just meant that rather than charging 3% to list a home, we did it for a flat fee. Back then, nobody was doing it. Nobody was discounting. We did it, and we just took off. Built that company for about 3 years. And it was really just me and Chelsea and about 6 others that followed me out of real estate school. But we were crushing it. We were, I think, number 14 in the market out of like 400 brokerages. But I woke up one day, and you'll all have this realization. What I always do at the end of the year is I kind of do a review of what I did during the year. And I realized that I hadn't really started a business. I just built a real estate team. Because the way you judge a business is if the owner can leave for a week and come back and things are still going, that's a business. If I walked out the door and got hit by a truck, Revolve Realty would have closed its doors. So I'm like, okay, I've got to step out of production and we're going to change our model. So 2 years ago, we went to what's called a broker services model, and that really just affects how agents are paid. But that really helped us grow the company. So we went from 6 agents to almost 100 in about 18 months. And then earlier this year, we merged, Revolved with a company called Leading Edge, which had a similar model here, is owned by a buddy of mine. So now we are Leading Edge Realty Group. We've got 300 agents, 7 offices, and that's how I got where I am.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
It's one of these.
Yeah. Oh, it's a roller coaster for sure. And you got to be careful because like going through like things like this, conferences and different things, like you get pulled, your attention gets pulled to different businesses, different business ventures. And so you got to be really focused on one thing first, right?
Yeah.
And I think something that amazed me, I heard you speak a couple of years back and you said like y'all's first year or your second year, y'all done like 18 million in,
Well, we came out of the gate pretty fast because of my background in business. Because I was also a marketer. I was really good on social media. We dominated Facebook and YouTube. I think we did 18 million in sales last year just off our YouTube channel.
Jeez,
And
that's
along the way,
crazy.
we've got a company called Revolved Renovations where we do flips and rentals. And Chelsea has a number of Airbnbs and she owns apartments. And she's much more in the buy and hold than I am. At my age, I want to buy, hit, and go on to the next deal.
Yeah.
So
How long have you been in real estate in general?
5 years.
5 years. Oh man, there's so much that's happened in 5 years. That's crazy. Me too. Yeah, same time as me almost.
Yep.
Yeah, a little bit before me. That's awesome. So we were joking about it earlier. What I really wanted to get into it with you with is the market and how it's changed in the last year, right? Yeah. So like 2019, 2020, 2021, we were killing it. We were flipping 5 to 6 at a time. You're flipping all kinds of houses. So what's it look like now? It's a tougher market right now. So what are you doing to transition? Like tell us a little bit about the market right now, and then what did you do to transition?
Yeah. The market today is a completely different market than it was a year ago, 18 months ago. On the retail side, and when I say retail, I'm talking about residential home sales. We have been at a 20-year low in inventory for about 3 years, meaning that we have, I think, about 2 months worth of inventory in the MLS. So it's a very tight market, it's a seller's market. Well, over the past few years, we have had a really big influx of people relocating here because of the jobs. I mean, Huntsville, Alabama is one of the most prosperous places on earth right now. We have the second largest population of engineers in the country. Silicon Valley is number 1. We have one of the highest median income rates here. So there's a lot of folks moving here, and there was a shortage in housing. So what happened, also interest rates were around 3%. So you have low inventory, low interest rates, high demand, and it was a frenzy here about 12 to 18 months ago. And I miss it. I miss it.
Yeah.
The downside was this: if you were a traditional home buyer who had to put down 3 to 20% and get a mortgage, the odds that you actually won a deal were really slim, because we had so many buyers, Casey knows this, so many buyers coming here with just buckets of cash. I had a client move here from DC. He sold, I think it was a 1,600 square foot 3-2 for $800,000 in DC. Came here with all that money looking to buy something. And he's like, I can buy a mansion here. He ended up buying a $500,000 house and 2 rental properties and still had money to party, right? So that's what the traditional home buyer has been competing with. That's also what the investors were competing with. I mean, it was really hard for us to win deals when you've got these investors coming in here with all this cash. Long story short, that was the market we had here. That market changed really when interest rates started to go up. Interest rates started going on the rise about a year ago. The inventory was still low, demand was still high, but the sales started to go down because money was getting so expensive. Again, not just for buyers, but for investors. You know, if the interest rate out there is 8% and you got to pay a 2% VIG, that's a deep rate. So where we are today, long story shorter, is we still have low inventory. Things have slowed down dramatically though. You know, a year ago, we would put a house on the market and we'd get 20 offers in one day, and it would go $50,000 above asking price for cash, no appraisal, no inspection. Well, now the demand is still high, but interest rates are causing buyers to pump the brakes.
Yep.
So we're seeing days on market. Days on market is how many days is it between the time it goes on market to the time it goes under contract, are a lot longer now than they were. And again, that's simply because money is more expensive. And it's not just on the retail side, but again, on the investment side. You know, if you're doing hard money and that sort of thing, I think things have pretty much kind of stayed the same. But like with us, we self-finance most of our flips. But when we do have to borrow money, we just go get lines of credit with the bank or that sort of thing. So the moral to the story is there's still a lot of houses out there. Prices have not really dropped that much. Money is more expensive, but if you get creative, I think there's still a lot of opportunity out there. And they're saying we're going to see a lot more foreclosures coming next year.
Yeah.
So, you know, where's the market going to go? They're saying we're probably going to end the year with about 8.5% interest rates. Probably going to be like that through first quarter. I think with everything I've seen, interest rates are probably going to settle about 6, which is not a bad interest rate. I was telling these guys, my first mortgage in 1988, I had a 14% ARM. And that was a low rate then, right? So I think rates are going to settle back to 6. I think you're going to see things loosen up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, it's, in my opinion, there's never a bad time to be in real estate. It's just how you approach it and what you do with it.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that creative part because, like I said, we were both doing a lot of flips last year, and moving into this year, we kind of seen that the interest rates starting to poke up, and we just hate flips, man. I mean, contractors, you know, they never do what they say they're going to do, and just having that many projects go on at one time, it was tough. It was a tough situation. But we transitioned to seller financing. We started pitching more creative financing to sellers, and you know, on our buy and holds instead of renting, we pitched seller finance, right? And so that's how we transition, because the interest rates are adjustable, right, for the end buyer,
right?
According to our contract anyways. We'll talk more about that later. You guys will be able to definitely ask questions about that. John's our guy for seller financing. But saying all that to say this, how did you guys, as far as your real estate strategy go, how did you guys transition on that? Or did you transition?
Side, both.
Either way, yeah.
Yeah, you know, on the retail side, things are still pretty good. Mm-hmm. I mean, the market has slowed, excuse me, considerably, but we've got 300 agents, so our rate is pretty good. We're number 3 in the market now out of, I think there are 500 brokerages now, but realtors are having to play the longer game. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot going on in real estate right now. There's a lawsuit going on with the National Association of Realtors, which could change the way agents do business. It could do away with buyer agency commissions. And if that happens, you're going to see about half the realtors just go away overnight. Mm-hmm. And I think it's kind of a thinning of the herd, because honestly, when you look at it, out of real estate agents, it's the old 80-20 rule. About 20% do 80% of the business, and out of those, about 20% do 80. You know, so that's changing now. From an investment side, I agree with you. I'm tired of flips. They were great for a while. They're a lot of work and a lot of trouble. We actually had some issues with the permit police, which is a whole nother story. But we're actually moving out of flips. Chelsea has they've started a roofing company, and they're killing it, just going great. They're doing 4 or 5 roofs a week. Oh, wow. So that's kind of incentivizing her. But they're still very big in Airbnb mm-hmm. and the apartments. They don't have any, they've got a couple of short-term or rentals, which I think they'll eventually phase those out. But even Airbnb in this town is getting pretty iffy, because the city of Huntsville is cracking down on the Airbnb zone. You can only have Airbnbs in this area in certain parts of the city, and then the lousy parts of the city. I've got an investor who we've sold 47 houses to in the last 3 years, and he was Airbnb about half of those, and he got busted by the city. And so he's got to get out of the Airbnb business, and now he's either got to turn these into long-term rentals or sell them off. So that market's changing as well. Mm-hmm. Now, that said, outside of Huntsville city limits, Chelsea has 7 Airbnbs that print money. This is a killer Airbnb market because of the economy and the businesses here. It's just better if they're outside Huntsville City.
Yeah.
But we're really making that shift away from flips, really more for an economic reason than it's a pain in the butt. They're expensive, money's expensive, contractors, don't get me started. But I think there are different things to do. You know, like we actually have a couple that we may do owner financing on just to give that a try and see how it works.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I've been an entrepreneur going on 40 years. I've seen the best and the worst of times, and the key to this and any business is the ability to change, to shift gears, go in another direction, look at the market, adjust for the market, and just keep on going. And the other thing is, if you are in a market where all of a sudden the fan's about to turn on and people are standing there with buckets of poop, get out, change.
Yep.
You know, don't stick with something until it dies. But it's just, you know, so much of this business is just common sense. But it's tied to the economy, so you got to watch that carefully too.
Right. So after this, we're going to be talking about lead generation a little bit. And I think I already know the answer to this, but you've done really well at building the brand. Is that mainly how you get your leads coming in now? The YouTube, or on the investment side?
Yeah, every business I've ever had, I've always been the marketing guy. We've always done video, even back in the day when the cameras were this big, and you know, you couldn't do a video on your phone because there were no phones. So the reason I do that, I've always operated under the tenet that the loudest kid in class gets the most attention, be it good or bad. When I was a kid, I got the most attention. I was the class clown. I used to get my tail toe up every day by Coach Allen, and he had a paddle called the Board of Education. And I've got permanent imprints on my ass from that. But the loudest kid always gets the most attention. So in business especially, you want to build your brand. You want to be known as the guy or girl who delivers this service if they need it. So for example, you know, my first day in real estate, I was doing videos. And I was posting to social media, and I was posting on our YouTube channel. And so you do that repeatedly. We've done that for our flipping business. You know, I know Casey does that a lot for her business. The point is, if you are in front of people consistently espousing a message, in their mind, you do become the expert in that field. Mm-hmm. Okay? I do so many real estate videos. I've never bought a lead. All of my businesses either come from my sphere of influence, but mostly from Facebook, LinkedIn, and big time on YouTube.
That's crazy.
And so it's really, back in the good old days, you young folks don't remember this, but there was a time when we only had 3 TV stations here. Who remembers 3 TV? There's the old part right there. No offense, man. And on these 3 TV stations, there was the nightly local news. And those newscasters were our celebrities. I mean, if you would see Jerry Hayes in a grocery store, you'd ask him for an autograph, right?
You was on the news, wasn't you?
Well, I was a few years later. Yeah, there were 5 channels by then. But the point being is, if you are the face that people see all the time talking, you obtain celebrity status in their mind. And your goal is to obtain expert status. Okay? Hey, if you have a house you need to get out of, I'm your guy. Here's what I can do for you, that sort of thing. So we do a ton of videos, we do a ton of Facebook posts, and again, it's just putting yourself out there, because here's the point. People have a very short attention span. Okay? People, I mean, you could do them a great job today, and a year from now, they won't know your name. Especially in my business, in the real estate business, there's a survey done that 90% of people who just dealt with a real estate agent say they were satisfied and they would use that agent again, but only 10% actually do. And the reason is because by the time they need them again, they've forgotten their name. But if you're on Facebook every day, doing videos, doing something to stand out, building your brand, you're going to be the guy and gal that they think of immediately when they need what you sell.
Yep.
So real estate, like everything, like investing, it's great to have good business sense, but he who markets best wins.
Yeah.
And that is all about building your brand.
Yeah, 100%. Like anytime I send out any type of marketing in general, people are always like, well, I went to your Facebook page, or I went to your website, I went to this, that, and the other.
People will stalk you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's. So I had one guy. I had a postcard that had one number on it, and then my sales guy had a different phone number, and then my website had another phone number. And he was like, "Yeah, I just didn't think you were legitimate because you had different phone numbers." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" But I don't think that it's. I don't think you need to waste, as a new investor, I don't think you need to waste a whole lot of time on branding like right out the gate. Like you should be focused on lead generation. But as you continue to get dollars in your pocket, like being exactly what he said, being branded, making sure everybody knows exactly what you do, like that's legitimacy. When people get your marketing and they call in and say, "Hey, I looked at your Facebook group, I seen your family picture, blah blah blah. I know your mom." That's what it's all about, having a company. And so often I see new investors like creating these LLCs, and they got these little pieces of paper saying they got a business, and then they never do anything with it.
I got a logo.
Yeah, a logo.
It's a great logo.
Hey, there you go.
Look, there's a logo.
People are so proud about it, but they don't.
Here's another thing is I've never spent a nickel on marketing.
Yeah.
Because I generate all of that content myself. I know how to use Facebook and YouTube and that sort of thing. And so, but I agree with you totally. Right out of the gate, you have no brand. Who's this goober on the video talking about this house? Yeah. I mean, I'm from here. I was fairly well known, but not for real estate. So when I started doing walkthroughs of homes and flip videos and offering advice to buyers and sellers, it took me a while to people finally realize, you know, they're connecting my logo, my brand with me. But right out of the gate, you're anonymous. But think about this: if you offer people good advice or knowledge or wisdom for free, they start to listen to you. And as you start to grow, again, you become that expert in their head. You know, well, I'm thinking about getting in the flipping business. Who was that Wyatt and Jon guy I saw on there? And Wyatt in Africa eating snakes and stuff, you know. And the other thing is, the point you made is, you don't, it's not all about the business. I do a lot of videos that have nothing to do with real estate. I post a lot of pictures of my grandsons. I've got a red Labradoodle named Murphy who has gotten me, I can't tell you how many listings from other Labradoodle owners. All right? So you want to come across as that expert, but you also want to come across as human. People want to do business, doesn't matter if you're a realtor, an investor, whatever. People want to do business with people they feel like they like, know, and trust. And social media gives you that advantage. You know, I'll be walking through a restaurant and somebody will go, "Hey, how's those grandsons?" And I'm like, "Great, who are you?" And he's one of my 5,000 Facebook friends. So, but building that brand and that expertise is really important, because if not, you can spend tons of money on marketing and that sort of thing, but if you can't follow it up, you're wasting your money.
I was sitting, for those of you that don't know, I live in Podunk, Pulaski, Tennessee, and I was sitting in the Walmart parking lot waiting on Lauren to get out, and I had some guy knock on my window, and you know, I had my gun over here. I was like, but he was like, "Dude, I've seen your videos on Facebook. You're Wyatt, right?" And I'm like, I called Jon immediately. I was like, I made it. So
you are recognized in Walmart.
That's it. Whew. But yeah. So let's do this. We started a little behind, but I still want to get these questions in. Let's change it up a little bit. There's a lot of talk back and forth about investors versus realtors, and I learned way back in the day that we can make a lot of money together, but everybody's always like, you know, investors hate realtors, realtors hate investors. It's a love-hate relationship. Yeah. So if we can learn to come alongside each other and work together, there's a lot more money on the table, right? So what does that look like for you as far as like investors and realtors working together?
Hey, I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the key there, I think, is mutual respect, because I've had 3 or 4 primary investors that I work with who are now really super good friends of mine. But you know, you have to be clear about, if you're an investor, what is the purpose of the realtor? Okay, the purpose of that realtor is to help you find properties that you can buy and invest in. They're not your dog. You can't order them around. You can't threaten them. No offense to anybody in the room, but I've had investors say, well, hey, I'm going to send you all of these links, and I want you to put in 50% offers on at least 10, 20 houses a day, and blah. No way. No way. Okay? Here's the thing. If you are a realtor and you are just slapping out 20, 30 lowball offers a day for investors, you're going to get a reputation among other realtors who are not going to do business with you. Okay? So it's a lot about it's respecting the time. Okay? If I'm an investor and I was going to engage a realtor, number one, I would say, okay, here's my buy box. Here's where my money is. I'm going to give you as much information as I can so you can work with me. And if I'm an agent, I'm going to take that buy box. I'm going to go find him properties. I'm going to pitch him deals. Okay? One of the things, if you're a realtor, is you've got to keep in mind that your investor is not just a cash cow. If you're working with an investor that's just sending you trash, trying to make money off of you, go find another realtor. Okay? It's more of a partnership than anything. Think of it that way. Okay? You do not abuse the agent by sending him a ton of houses and looking at stuff that you know you can't afford and doing lowball offers, and they do not abuse the relationship by sending you things just to get your money. But I will say this, the relationship you have with your realtor can make you rich, because realtors have access to stuff you guys don't have access to. Okay, we not only have access to the MLS, and our MLS covers all of North Alabama all the way down to Birmingham now, but we also see a lot of off-market deals. We work with a lot of wholesalers. So if you get a realtor that's accustomed to working with investors, they are invaluable to you. What I would tell you is, number one, ask around to your peers and people in the investment community, hey, who is a good investor-friendly realtor? Because some realtors do not want to work with investors at all. And that's fine. You don't want to work with them either. But if you can find a good investor-friendly realtor, interview 2 or 3 of them. Say, hey, here's what I'm doing, here's my goals, here's this, here's that. I get phone calls all the time from investors, air quotes, who have watched a YouTube video, have some money in their 401k, and want to be an investor, and want me to basically hold their hand, walk them through it, go find properties, blah, blah, blah. I refer them away. I don't have time to deal with them. I don't really work with anybody anymore because I'm too busy. But when I did, I would only work with seasoned investors that I knew were going to make good partners for me. But just to cut this off, interview multiple realtors. Tell them what you have to work with, what your goals are, what you expect of them, and then do not abuse that relationship. But finding that partner is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and to add on to that, like, I use PropStream and Zillow to run my numbers and find my ARV, right, which stands for after repair value. And so I'm always a little off from what Jon finds because he's got MLS access, right? And I'm not saying go out and ask every realtor to run you CMA on every lead that you get, right? But what I always do is I run the numbers on it and I get somebody else to look at it, like my sales guy, and if we're still not 100% confident, then I'll send it to a realtor to have a CMA run. But I'm not bombarding them with a bunch of CMAs, right? Get their opinion on it. And then on the other side of it, I actually will go through a case study here later, but I actually just worked with one of your realtors, and I had a house under contract in Decatur, and he helped me. He brought the buyer. I didn't have to do anything, like maybe 20 minutes worth of work, and that was it. So there are a ton of different ways you can work with each other, and like I said, if we can find a way to come alongside each other and not kill each other, we'll make a lot more money. Right. All right, so last question. There's a ton of new people in here, and you've been through a lot. I've been through a lot. What does it take? I mean, obviously, you know, people can get in this stuff with no money, very little money to no money. Everybody always says they don't have enough time, but that's a BS excuse. What does it actually take, like mindset, or like what does it take to do this? Because sometimes I think we're the crazy ones.
We are. Well, I'm gonna tell them the same thing I told you years ago. If this is what you want to do, if this is your goal, figure out a way to do it and then pull the trigger. But never pull the trigger so early that you're going to crash and burn. Again, I talk to a lot of folks that They want to get into investing. They go put a second mortgage on their house, they get a line of credit, they pull money out of their 401k. They want to buy the first house they come to. I was at a house with, it was a burnout, and I was looking at it to buy, and there was a young real estate agent with a young client there looking. And this kid was like, oh man, we're going to be doing this, and we're going to do this. And I'm listening, and I asked, I said, have you ever done a remodel? Or, no, this is going to be my first. And I asked his agent, have you ever, but no, this is my first. I'm like, you need to run. You need to run, because it is not going to be nearly as simple or as much fun as you think it's going to be, right? But if you are serious about this or anything, set a goal, create a plan, and get to it slowly and pull the trigger when you're ready. You know, you might get into this, and I've seen this happen. I've talked to people all the time. They bought their first flip, and halfway through, they're like, can you buy this from me? I hate this. I don't know what I'm doing. So, you know, again, to get where you are, I mean, Wyatt did not quit his day job and jump immediately in. I mean, he eased his way in and probably didn't quit that day job until he made sure he had some money coming in to feed those cute kids, right? So that's a big part of it. Don't be so quick to jump in. But if it's something you feel strongly about, if this keeps you awake at night, if you've got a burn in your gut to do this, you can do it. But create a plan. Look at getting partners to help you along the way. You don't have to do this by yourself, okay? Realtors, lawyers, accountants, contractors, money people, there's a big network there. But the big thing is get educated, like what you guys are doing now. Yeah. You know, I mean, when people call me up wanting to say, how do I get into real estate? You get educated first, okay? You study, you research, you look at others, you network. You know, you pull in as many folks as you can to help you get there. Yeah. But again, if it's something that just gnaws at you, I've got to do this. I've got to try this. You just create a plan to get there. Absolutely. I'm a big believer in goal setting, baby step goals. Okay, this week, here's where I want to be in a year. Here are the 10 things I need to do to get me there in a year. Here are the 10 things I can do every week to get me there. You know what I mean? Yep. And you break those goals down, and having an accountability partner like you and John have is, I think, invaluable. Because you got somebody that you can bounce off of, brainstorm with, because this can be a lonely business. So, you know, there's a moral in there somewhere. Yeah, they say it's lonely at the top. I always hated when people said that, but like, that's why we do this. That's why we're in masterminds and different coaching groups, is because like, these people understand us. Like my parents thought I was crazy when I quit my job to do this. They still don't know what I do, right? Yeah. I was like, hey, I'm gonna be in front of a bunch of people today, and they're like, okay. But man, I appreciate it. I love and respect you, and I'm finally glad we got to do this. And be in front of. I appreciate it. Y'all give him make some noise. Make some noise.